The Raiders are going up against the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday, and I hope that you join our watch party here on the Raiders Report. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got those notifications turned on, because coming up here on today's show, I got the top 10 players that I'm going to be watching on Sunday, and I'm hoping that the nation is watching with me. Not only are the Raiders battling the 49ers on the field, but we're going to be battling the 49ers Report here at Chat Sports. And until then, we're doing a battle to see which channel can get the most subscribers. Here's the problem. I'm at 25. The 49ers Report's at 36 new subs. So if you hate the Niners as much as I do, hit that subscribe button right now and tell your friends. See this channel right here? Hit that subscribe button. These guys drop videos every single day. Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. It's Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, and today's show is presented by Manscaped. If you haven't already gotten started with our awesome sponsor, go to manscaped.com. Use code Raiders. That way you can save 20% off and get free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. So the way that this show is going to work here is I'm going to go from 10, work my way down to 1, and don't worry, I got some honorable mentions to talk about as well. At number 10 here for players I'm going to be watching very closely in this game, Amik Robertson. He has to be on this list. He is a roster bubble candidate. He is the only player, which is a mind-blowing statement to make, the only player left on this roster from the 2020 draft class. He has been having himself a great training camp. He's been working with the ones a little bit. He offers you some of that versatility on the inside and on the outside. But if there's one thing that I know that the 49ers are going to have is they're going to have pretty good quarterback play this preseason. They're going to have Trey Lance. They're going to have Sam Darnold. They're going to have Brock Purdy out there slinging the rock. So it's going to be a good test for Amik. On top of that, a lot of the San Francisco 49ers players, again, I don't know how many of the starters are going to be out there, but I know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Amik and how he plays compared to a guy like Sam Webb. How does a player like a David Long Jr. go out there and look? Anytime you are battling for a roster spot in this Raiders secondary, I believe that's very noteworthy, and that's why he's going to be a player to watch for me. Let's go to number 9 here on my list. I'm going to go Amari Burney, the rookie linebacker out of Florida. This past year in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Raiders selected Burney in the 6th round. And I'm really curious to see how the Raiders use him on defense and even special teams, because I know Burney's a good athlete. Like, if you watch him in training camp, if you saw his tape, anybody that turns it on knows this guy's a legit athlete. However, you can be a legit athlete in college football. Yeah, you might get exposed a little bit here and there in the SEC, which that happened to him at times. But now you're in the NFL. I want to see how his technique looks. I also want to see how he does in coverage against Shanahan's offense, which is going to use the running back position, and they do a very good job at putting running backs and tight ends on the linebacker. How is Burney going to be able to react to that? You can be a good athlete, but if you don't get your technique down, that's where you go from being a linebacker on an NFL roster to primarily just a special teams option. Before I show you guys my top 8 Raiders that I can't wait to watch against the Niners, the Raiders Report is an interactive YouTube channel, and this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So how about this? You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. Scroll on down and let me know what player you're most excited to watch against the 49ers this week. Let's go to number 8 here on my show. Thayer Munford out at offensive tackle. There has been new reports out there that indicate that there is a shot that Munford could start at right tackle this upcoming season. They might try to kick Jermaine Illuminor into right guard. I'm not referring to the Vic Tafur false report. I'm just going based off of knowledge that I have. And if I've talked to Jermaine, he wants to play right tackle. However, if he needs to play right guard for the best offensive line that this Raiders team can have, he's a good teammate and he is willing to do it. Carmen Russillo is, in quotes, very high on Munford, and he's been very high on him. Yes, he was a 7th-round pick, but I was told that the Raiders had a much higher draft grade on the Ohio State product, and he's going to have a good test against the Niners. Like, yeah, you're probably not going to see Nick Bosa out there, but the 49ers have one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League, so Munford's going to get tested, and I'm excited to see how he looks against that test. At number 7 here, we're going to go to the defensive tackle room. Nesta Jade Silvera, the 7th round pick from the Raiders draft class this upcoming season. I think one of the biggest reasons why I'm excited to see him is because a little bit of an under-the-radar player. If you watch the show, you'll know that I've kind of been hyping him up over the past few weeks because dude's a really good run stopper. In fact, he might be already a top 2-3 run stopper on this team. And anytime you go up against Kyle Shanahan, anytime you go up against the Shanahan offense, you're going to get tested in the running game. He has stepped up big time. The fact that Neil Farrell Jr. has missed a little bit of time. And, I mean, Neil Farrell Jr. was doing pretty well at OTAs and minicamp. It wouldn't surprise me if Nesta Jade balls out here in the preseason and takes over. I was talking to a Raiders teammate, and the way that he described Jade Silvera to me, this is after the first week of training camp when only the rookies were in there. He described him to me as an anchor. Like, when he puts his feet in the dirt, it's hard to move him. And that's where he's going to get really good opportunities this upcoming season for the Raiders, where let's say it's 3rd and 1, 4th and inches, and you need a big-time stop. Watch out for Nesta Jade to trot his big old booty out there and get a solid run stop, because that's what he's going to be able to bring to this team. I got 6 more names to break down for y'all, but man, I wouldn't be able to do today's show if it wasn't for our sponsor, Manscaped. And if you're wondering, Mitch, how do your balls stay so clean? I'm glad you asked. Why? I use the Lawnmower 4.0, and if you don't want to take my word for it, you can always hit up my fiance on Instagram. I'm sure she would tell you the exact same thing. Use code Raiders at manscaped.com, and for whatever reason, if you can't remember that link, I was nice enough to put it down in the comments and in the description of today's show. I use the Lawnmower 4.0 in the shower. You can use it on literally almost any part of your body. The changeable blade is also a big-time game changer in general. The fact that there is a light on the end of this thing helps you see in those hard-to-reach spots. One of my other favorite tools is it's kind of difficult to point to, but it looks like that white bar near the bottom of the handle. That's the battery power. How many times have anybody ever been shaving their face, their downstairs, and then you realize half of your face is gone, or you're rocking a mohawk? Is it a mohawk? I don't know if it's down there. But it's because your blade, your razor ran out of battery. If that happens, that's on you, because this thing tells you how much battery power you have left. Go to manscaped.com, use code Raiders, and when you use code Raiders, it also tells Manscaped that you support the Raiders Report, which, believe it or not, does help me out. Let's go to number 6 here, and it's Adam Plant Jr., the defensive end, the UDFA from UNLV. If you were to tell me, Mitch, which rookie/UDFA is probably the biggest winner of this entire offseason, I'm talking OTAs, I'm talking minicamp, I'm talking training camp, the name Plant Jr. has to be brought up. He's been impressive on and off the field. His understanding of how the day work it takes to be successful in the NFL. Like, you can't just show up at practice and compete on the field. You also got to be able to show that you can pick up the playbook, and that's one thing that he's done well. He's battling for that 53-man roster spot, and the battle that I'm really curious to see this upcoming week, and the battle I'll be watching the entire preseason, is him against Malcolm Kuntz. Like, I'm excited to see Malcolm. Apparently, he's grown 2 inches, probably for using Manscaped. He's put on some good weight. Kuntz is super, super motivated right now because he's battling for his job on top of that. But if Plant can beat Kuntz out, then I'm sorry, he flat out deserves the spot. We got number 5 coming up here on the Raiders Report here, and that is safety Isaiah Pola-Mao. This is really where it started to get difficult for me, because I can't tell you enough how impressed I am by this young man. When he made the 53-man roster last season, I sat up here on this show and I go, wow, that was really, really surprising. But you know what? He continues to show that he's getting better and better and better. I was told by a member of the Raiders that he's the 3rd best safety at camp right now. And that's Merrick playing very well, Marcus Epps playing very well. And the reason why I thought that was notable is because the Raiders drafted Chris Smith out of Georgia, and I thought that he hasn't been practicing well. It's just Pola-Mao right now, his versatility. This Raiders team thinks that he could play a linebacker, thinks that he can play strong safety, thinks that if he needs to play up near the box, he can do all of those things. He's 6'4". I think he's like 225, 230 pounds. He's bulked up a little bit. He's bulked up a little bit, put on some good weight, but also he has those ties. He's related to Kennedy Pola-Mao. Can't wait to see what he does in the preseason, because you hear a lot of camp hype. But now I want to see it translated, and I'm hoping that it ends up translating well. Speaking of camp hype, and speaking of how is it going to translate when it's actually time to play, it's Tre Tucker, wide receiver drafted at number 100 overall. He's already going to have a lot of eyeballs on him. When you trade away Darren Waller and you use that pick to select Tre Tucker, people are going to be watching him. And I want to see how they use him in the pre-snap motion. I was on this show a few months ago and I talked about one of the reports out there was that McDaniels is going to use Tucker, even a little bit of DeAndre Carter and some pre-snap motion to help Jimmy Garoppolol be able to identify the mic, to be able to identify if they're going to run man, if they're going to run zone. I also want to see the speed and quickness in a real game because you can be fast at practice, right? But if you know in the back of your mind that I'm not going to get leveled here, I'm not really going to get tackled, that gives you the ability to not worry about it. And I'm also hoping, I don't know if it's going to happen, I want to see Tre Tucker catch a screen. I want to see him catch a deep ball or at least get a deep ball opportunity, and I want to see him get one like jet sweep or a carry attempt. I want to see the quickness. I want to see the speed. I want to see the acceleration when he's going down the field, when he catches a screen, or when he's coming off a jet sweep. If I see all three of those things, and I'm a big eye test guy, and I come away with that as, oh shit, this kid can move, that's where I'm going to get really, really excited. We still got 3 more names to get to here, but you know what? I do want to give some honorable mentions because I think a lot of surface-level Raider fans don't watch preseason, but true diehard fans, they do. They want to see how the third strings are doing, the fourth string guys are doing. So here's some honorable mentions out there. I want to see how McClendon Curtis and Dalton Wagner, both UDFAs, how they look. What about the right guard battle? Greg Van Roten and Netane Moody. I mean, that's going to be battling it out with Alex Bars. Michael Mayer, the rookie tight end. Matthew Butler, second-year guy. Another UDFA and Drake Thomas. 2 more corners in Sam Webb and Tyler Hall. And then the rookie Chris Smith, the safety out of Georgia. But wait, I'm also going to show these names. McDaniels was kind of weird last year. He played Jacobs in the Hall of Fame game, but didn't play many starters. This is my list of if they play, I'm going to end up watching them. So, no, everyone's going to watch Garoppolo. He's not going to play, though. Renfro, Myers, Devontae, Max Crosby. I would love to know if Marcus Peters is going to play, because if he is, I might rank him a little bit higher. Epps, Diablo, Merrick, Chandler Jones. No real surprising names here. It's just if they're on the field, I'm going to freaking watch them. Now, before I get into those final 3 names, if you hate the 49ers, and I mean, it's just like that rivalry, hit that like button right now because we're doing a battle, and I'm talking a battle of the Bay here on YouTube. Raiders report, 49ers report. I need to know if you got my back, and I'll know by you if you like this video. Let's go to number 3 here, Zamir White. When I asked this question beginning of the live show, a lot of people said Zamir, and I get it. For selfish reasons, like fantasy football-wise, yeah, I want to see how Zamir looks. But does Zamir White look ready to carry a workload? Like in a worst-case scenario where Josh Jacobs doesn't play, like is McDaniels and Ziegler going to be confident, like, all right, yeah, we can give this young man here 200 carries? Because if he looks great, that's going to put a lot more pressure on Josh Jacobs. I have been asked, hey, Mitch, should the Raiders go after this running back? Should they go after this running back to turn up the heat on Jacobs? The person that can turn up the heat the most on Jacobs is Zamir. And if he goes out there and he looks like a damn good running back, if I'm Jacobs, I'm like, oh, shit, I better get my ass back into training camp. And the most important is, how does he look in pass protection? Because we could talk about Zamir being able to run between the tackles. We could talk about him being able to catch the football. But when you got a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo, the Raiders aren't going to put Zamir out there if he's a huge liability in the passing game. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to put Amir Abdul out there. Brandon Bolden's going to be out there as well in those third down situations. But if you want to be a true bell cow back in this league and you want to make your team forget about the guy that just had over 2,000 total yards, you better be able to pass protect because that's going to get you exposed real quick with your head coaches. Let's go to number 2 here on my list. It's Jakorian Bennett. I can't wait to see what Bennett looks like. I mean, when you think about how much hype has been around the Raiders training camp, especially on the defensive side of the football, you can't talk about the Raiders defense this offseason, especially training camp, without mentioning the 4th-round pick who the Raiders traded up to get. And right now, he is the front runner to start this season next to Marcus Peters. It's going to be Peters and Bennett on the outside, Nate Hobbs in at the slot. And he looks like the real deal, man. But how's that going to translate to a game? You can be a great practice player. You know how many people care? This many. Because if you can't produce on Sundays, if you can't produce when the lights are on, it does not matter. And you guys know how high I am on Duke Shelley. I love me some Duke Shelley. But if Bennett's better than Shelley and Shelley can be that fourth string corner to be that depth piece, man, this Raiders defense might actually be taking a turn for the best, which means, drum roll please, the number one player that I am most excited to watch against the 49ers it's Aidan O'Connell, and he's the quarterback. That's why I'm excited to watch him. This is more to do with the quarterback position than anything else. He's going to be rocking number 4. Of course I'm excited to see a quarterback with the number 4 taking over for Derek Carr. But I am a big believer that the Raiders, McDaniels and Ziegler, look at O'Connell as the future. They look at him as the franchise quarterback to take over for Jimmy Garoppolol next season. Does he look like that guy? Can he pass the eye test? Is the accuracy, and maybe even more importantly, the ability to throw guys open as good as reported? Because when you hear coaches talk, quarterback coaches talk, the quarterback coach for Aidan O'Connell works with Mahomes. And he said that O'Connell is the most accurate quarterback that he's ever worked with. His ability to throw guys open is the best that he's ever seen. I want to see if that is actually the case. And I get it. You might not get it in week 1. But if you're really going to be that good, you step on that field, and if you're a gamer, how does it look? Can you command the Josh McDaniels offense when he's in the huddle and there's tough situations? Are those other players looking at him saying, we believe in this guy? All of that weighs very heavily in finding a true franchise quarterback. And that's what I'm going to be watching with Aidan O'Connell. So let's wrap this thing up here real quick. Again, my top 10 players that I am most excited to watch against the 49ers. And man, I could have added a lot of other names to this list, right? We're going to be live for the entire game. The game starts, I believe, at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be live an hour before kickoff. Jeremy Chuggs and I, we're going to try to treat this like an Oakland tailgate, man. We're going to be getting wild. We're going to be getting crazy. Hopefully y'all got your drinking pants on. I'm going to be eating a lot of food. My last question is this. I know there's going to be people like, Mitch, I can't believe you forgot that name. There's probably a name I did forget. It wouldn't surprise me. So I'll know this. If you made it to the very, very end of the show, give me a name that I left off my list. I'll go through. I'll see the names. We'll record them. I would definitely appreciate it. If you take time out of your day to watch, I'll take time to go down in the comments. Cheers to the nation. Hopefully you're there Sunday. Raiders, 49ers here on the Raiders Report.